Am I audible? Hello?
Yeah, ma'am, you're audible. Ma'am, you're audible.
Yes. Okay. So shall I start the meeting webinar
Yeah,
now?
ma'am. Yeah, ma'am, you can start.
Okay. Okay. So good evening to everyone. I am Ipshita Mishra. I'll be discussing evolution of refrigeration industry. So we'll discuss about the principle of refrigeration, history of refrigeration, refrigerators and its evolution, different air conditioners and its evolution, and various technologies used in refrigeration industries. So what is refrigeration? Generally, refrigeration, we can define it as a process where we are going to achieve a particular temperature and maintain the temperature below that of surrounding. Okay, that means we need to cool uh, some product or space to a particular temperature. That is basically defines the refrigeration process. Or we can also mention, or we can also understand the process of removing heat from a closed container where its temperature need to be reduced or maintained below the ambient or normal temperature. Okay, so the history of refrigeration is basically classified into two categories. First classification will be the as it is based on the natural refrigeration methods, and the next one is artificial refrigeration method. So what is artificial cooling or artificial refrigeration method, and how it is different from natural refrigeration method? Natural refrigeration method takes place due to the cold spot, or it takes place due to the convection process. Okay, and it is eco-friendly, but it takes a lot of time. It is a very slow process. Okay, but in the artificial refrigeration methods, it is here the energy in form of heat can be removed from low temperature reservoir, and it can be transferred to a high temperature reservoir. That means we are using external source for maintaining the temperature. Okay, so this is a fast process in comparison to natural refrigeration method, and it is not that eco-friendly because we are using different chemicals, or we are using some refrigerants which are not that eco-friendly as of natural refrigeration method. So the natural refrigeration method includes use of ice transported from colder regions, use of ice harvested in winter and stored in ice houses, use of ice.
How were the early models working? And how
Is it audible, guys?
Refrigeration evolved until today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
In this video, we will talk about the history of the refrigerator, about how were people managing to keep their foods cool before its invention, how were the early models working, and how the technology providing refrigeration evolved until today. Before the refrigerator was invented, people were using ice houses to provide cool storage for most of the year. Placed near freshwater lakes or packed with snow and ice during the winter, they were once very common. Natural means are still used to cool foods today. On mountainsides, runoff from melting snow is a convenient way to cool drinks, and during the winter, one can keep milk fresh much longer just by keeping it outdoors. The word refrigerator was used at least as early as the 17th century. The history of artificial refrigeration began in 1755 when Scottish professor William Cullen designed a small refrigerating machine. Cullen used a pump to create a partial vacuum over a container of diethyl ether, which then boiled, absorbing heat from the surrounding air. The experiment even created a small amount of ice, but had no practical application at that time. The American inventor Oliver Evans described in 1805 a closed vapor compression refrigeration cycle for the production of ice by heater under vacuum. In 20, the British scientist Michael Faraday liquefied ammonia and other gases by using high pressures and low temperatures. In 1834, an American expatriate in Great Britain, Jacob Perkins, built the first working vapor compression refrigeration system. It was a closed cycle device that would operate continuously. It was made in 1842 by American physician John Gorey, who built a working prototype, but it was a commercial failure. American engineer Alexander Twining took out the British patent in 1850 for a vapor compression system that used ether. James Hanson, Scottish Australian, built the first practical vapor compression refrigeration system. His 1856 patent was for a vapor compression system using ether, alcohol, and ammonia. Mechanical ice making machine in 1851 on the banks of the Darwin River at Rocky Point, Geelong, Victoria, and his first commercial ice making machine followed. Edison also introduced commercial vapor compression refrigeration to breweries and meatpacking houses, and by 1861, a dozen of his systems were in operation. The first gas absorption refrigeration system using gaseous ammonia dissolved in water was developed by Ferdinand Carré of France in 18.
In various industries, like in pharmaceutical industries, we are using it. In manufacturing industries, we are using a refrigeration process. So how this is applicable, we'll discuss about it. Yeah, I'll answer the question. Someone is raising the hand again and again. So I'll answer the question once this presentation is over. Okay. Up to that, please have your questions. Write down in the chat box. When the session will be completed, I'll be answering your questions one by one. So this is the evaluation of refrigerators from 1920s to till now. Okay, so next we'll be going for air conditioners. Okay, so the air conditioners are considered as one of the 10 greatest inventions made in 20th century. Okay, so here initially the air conditioners, what we are thinking about was divided into domestic, that means window air conditioners and split air conditioners. But now with the evolution of technologies, air conditioners have a separate unit like HVAC, heating, ventilation and air conditioning unit. So in today's market, in today's era, HVAC is playing a major role, and we'll discuss it in this webinar. So with constant new development in the technology, the cooling system have evolved to great heights, and now it includes smart technologies. Like we need air conditioners in order to cool down the various high-end computers what we are using nowadays. Okay, so the first attempt by man was made in China in order to in order to use this cooling technology around 2000 years ago, and after that in the 3rd century in Rome, the cooling technology was also used, and the first ever cooling system came to the picture when Ding Yuan created one rotary fan which was manually powered. Okay, so this rotary fan was one of the important part of our vapor compression refrigeration system, what we'll be discussing right now. And after that, Franklin conducted the experiment on 1715 using the evaporation evaporative cooling method, so that the freezing temperature can be achieved. Okay, so after 1700 after Franklin on 1758, John Gurry in 1830, he invented a cooling uh, process where he can give comfort to the patients who are suffering from yellow fever. Okay, so what he did was he created a system that forced the air to pass through the bucket of ice. So what happened due to meter length? Okay,
The throttling device is an obstruction to the flow, so a huge pressure drop occurs when the liquid flows through it. As the pressure drops, the boiling point of the liquid, so its temperature drops. If you check the temperature across the throttling device, you will notice this drop. Please note that only a portion of the refrigerant is evaporated here. This is one important property of the refrigeration fluid. It should be able to change the phase while varying the pressure under normal temperatures.
see nowadays R130, apart from using R134A, we are finding scientists are finding better alternatives of refrigerant. If you have a Godrej refrigerator at your home, you can check the label in the back side of the refrigerator. It will mention the refrigerant type as R290, okay, and 610. You can now R134A is not in use because of the environmental issues. Okay, and in air conditioners also, usually it is mentioned R22 we use in the air conditioners, but now R32 is coming to the picture. Now we are using whether it is Voltas or it is Godrej, they are using R32 in the air conditioners. So these are the refrigerants what are being used in your air conditioning system and refrigerators. Why the change of refrigerators? Because we need to find the better alternatives of the refrigerants which will not give harmful, which will not produce harmful effect for the environment. Is the
called the
evaporator.
evaporator.
Okay, and this is the tubes through which the refrigerant will pass through, right? Generally we use copper tube, and here in the video it is okay. Particular, see, expansion valve are divided into various categories. Basically we use thermostatic expansion valve in the air conditioning unit. So here in the thermostatic expansion valve, what it is doing, it is having a sensing bulb. Okay, that sensing bulb is present in the suction line of the compressor. Why this is present? See, when the desired temperature is of the refrigerant is not maintained in the evaporator, then what will happen? That means the heat load what we are expecting on the evaporator is not maintained. Then there is a chance that the liquid refrigerant will pass through this compressor. Okay, so if the liquid refrigerant will pass through the compressor, then the malfunctioning of the compressor will be obtained. So in order to avoid that, this thermostatic expansion valve is present. It is having a sensing bulb at the suction line of the compressor. So where the desired temperature is not present, at that time it will restrict the flow of the refrigerant. So that is why I mentioned it as thermostatic expansion valve. Okay, so we'll study in detail what is the function of thermostatic expansion valve, what are the applications of expansion valve, what are the classification. We'll study in details. Okay.
The room's air over the refrigerant gets converted to vapor.
Okay, so this
You
is
might have heard a
the
term called
fundamental
time associated with the air conditioner.
idea
time represents
what
how much
I
heat the
wanted
evaporator
all of you to understand how the vapor compression refrigeration unit works and what are the various and major applications of this vapor compressor unit. Okay, so I try to mention the various applications of the unit here. Um, and have uh, I have divided the application of the refrigeration unit into refrigerator, air conditioners, freezers, and various medical devices. I try to show you these videos, but we are running out of time. So if you have any doubts, you can mention in the chat box. I'll try.